I love people. And at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right. Unfortunately, you have to make decisions in this corner office that are difficult. That's the sleepless nights that I have is, I know these employees, I know their spouses, I know their kids, I know how difficult it is to walk down this road in law enforcement. And so I don't take any decision lightly.
Hello and welcome to the Clear Voice, brought to you by Clear Career Professionals. I'm your host, James Groom. This week we're bringing you a PositionCast for the Assistant Chief of Police opening in Bridgeport, Texas. With us on this show is the recruiter for this position, Jeff Spivey, retired Chief of Police. Jeff, great to see you.
Hey, thanks, James, and I appreciate you having us on here and the opportunity to visit with Chief Stanford and talk about the position he has created out there in Bridgeport. Chief, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I'd like to introduce you, if I could, Chief Stanford, the Chief of Police from Bridgeport, Texas, has been Chief of Police in Bridgeport since October of 2015, holds a bachelor's degree of criminal justice from East Texas A&M University and a master's degree in public administration from Tarleton State University, a graduate of the 63rd session of the Leadership Command College at LEMIT, and also now wears the hat of an assistant city manager. So, Chief, glad to have you on here.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Bridgeport PD and obviously our community here in Bridgeport, Texas. It's an exciting place, and I hope that by the end of this, you have a good picture of what we have that's so special here in Bridgeport.
Well, thanks. And so I think from our perspective, Chief, the great thing about doing this podcast is to allow candidates who are considering, is Bridgeport the place for me? Is Chief Stanford the boss I want to work for? It's an opportunity to really get to know you, get to know the city, get to know the department before you go through all of the headaches that we know applying for one of these positions entails. So if you don't mind, as the candidates get to know you a little bit, would you share with us your career path and how you ended up in Bridgeport?
I was born and raised in this area for the most part. And so Wise County has always been my home. I raised a family here and I had family members in law enforcement. So as a young child growing up, I sought a position in law enforcement. I started working at the sheriff's office at a young age in the jail, quick as I could. And then as quick as I could get through the police academy and get a badge on my chest and get out in the field and start serving folks, I made that happen. I just been real fortunate. I was a young officer. I actually got hired at 20 years old. I went through the police academy and graduated police academy. And a month later, I turned 21. And the funny story is midnight of my 21st birthday, I was a lone officer in a squad car in Bridgeport, Texas. Back then, I was so proud to be a police officer. I remember that night, 8 hours, I stopped 22 cars, wrote 9 tickets. I took 3 people to jail. And to top it off, I wrecked my car all in the first night. So it was, I had a good few months worth of work there, but it's been a special place. I've had opportunities to go other places and I've stuck it out here. I'm approaching 30 years of service with the city now. And obviously this is my home as a person. As an employee, I value what Bridgeport has for my family and always have. Our school districts is great. I served as a school board member for a couple of years before making chief, and a wise person told me to get off the school board as soon as I got this corner office. And so that was a wise choice, but, this is a great place and, continue to, provide me with opportunities to serve in different capacities. I think that I may not have gotten some other places, being in part of the city administrative staff now, working with the council members, and working with our city manager day to day. He's, provided me some opportunities to learn things. And I decided a couple of years ago to get my master's degree in public administration. Not that I really have a long-term goal to go to that side of the government, but it does give me a much broader view of the impact that the city government has, the things that we can do for our citizens.
As you've been on your your journey in policing and now taking on some roles and responsibilities in city management from a day-to-day perspective, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, Jeff, I'd like to think I'm transformational, a servant, all the big terms that we use, we see so often. But I think I'm fairly confident that you talk to anyone that works here now currently or that I've worked closely with in the past, they know that they have somebody in their corner that is going to be supportive, that's going to challenge them, challenge the mindset, but also provide opportunity for advancement. Even in small agencies like Bridgeport, we have a lot of different opportunities for our staff. And I think the most important thing is providing opportunity that challenge our staff members to get educated, but also to advance their training and then be creative in their job. I say this a lot. I don't care where you are in law enforcement. Never underestimate or devalue yourself as part of the team. Each member of the team is so valuable. And, we have a group of 11. There's only 32 of us in the building, but there's 11 people on our leadership team. And I don't call it a management team. I call it a leadership team. And those individuals, some of them are obviously supervisors, but some of them are line employees. And so those line employees, as you know, often provide the greatest wisdom, the greatest, ideals for the team. To answer your question, the people that I've enjoyed working with the most have been those that challenge me to push me toward greatness, but also know that they have your back, right? I'm a little bit of a servant leader and a little bit of a transformational leader. At times I can be transactional if I have to. I don't like playing in that field too much, but law enforcement is made up of laws and policies and so forth. You'll have someone that's going to go to bat for you when you need it.
So you talked about your leadership team, a team of 11 individuals. What kind of expectations do you have from each of those? And from a day-to-day standpoint, what kind of challenges exist within those 11 different personalities to work together?
You're right. There's 11 different personalities and everyone is it basically has their niche or their assignment. Everyone's assignment or their division, whatever their span of control is, it's the most important in the room, right? And so try to navigate those personalities and making sure that we address the critical needs in the community, but also making sure that all of those team players feel like they're being heard, I think is important. Consistently and often, the mission statement, the vision statement has to be discussed quite often at every single junction of any meeting or any conversation. That has to be the foundation of everything that we do. I'll give you an example of a leadership meeting real quick. Now, granted, this is a team that we've been together for quite some time, but we went into a meeting and normally, it's just like any other leadership meeting. You have your hot topic items. You may have some house cleaning and so forth. But this particular meeting, we try to do this a couple times a year. This is what I call a non-agenda meeting. We all come into the room and it's kind of like Las Vegas. What's said in there stays in there. There's no rank in the room. There's no stars, no bars, no stripes. And so I set the tone by saying, we're going to talk about individually how we are impeding the progress of our mission. And we're going to start with me. The first time we did this, it was like very uncomfortable for everyone, right? I knew what I was doing. Nobody else did. They were totally shocked. But I think what is important about it is it provided our team with the opportunity to talk about some hard conversations, right? I said, we're going to go around the room and Jeff is going to tell me where I am impeding our progress. We're going to be respectful. There's two things that are going to happen. We're going to be respectful. And then this is not going to be used against you, right? So you got to have the trust of your teammates, right? You obviously don't want to do this on a green team. So one of the things, this was a few years ago, this first time we did this, but we went around the room. The consistent remark was, Chief, we feel like you're not listening to us. When we come in, you're on your phone, you're responding to text messages, you got phone calls, you're bouncing off emails. Man, you're talking about a kick in the gut. But, at the same time, I appreciated that honest feedback. And so every time my phone goes off, which has gone off 3 times as we've been sitting here talking, I hear those people, those voices is like, hey, you're not paying attention to me. And so as we went around the room, we all had different comments that we talked about. But at the same time, we ended the meeting on positive. Okay, now we talked about some negative stuff, and let's talk about some positive stuff. The emotion that we shared, the camaraderie that we shared in that meeting laid a great foundation and is what made this actually hosting this position pretty difficult. I don't want to disrupt our culture here. I want to bring somebody in here to help us polish this culture. But we have such a fine culture here that I'm real hesitant. I'm going to be very picky of selecting this person because it's too important. And you and I have talked about that off record. That is a typical leadership meeting a couple times a year. We talk about critical, have hard conversations. But on the flip side, listening to people such as a sergeant come forward and saying, hey, we have 10 rock quarries within a 7-mile radius of Bridgeport. Is there any way we can start a commercial motor vehicle unit? And at first I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense, right? And then you look at the state law and there's a lot of confusion about that and how we interpret that. And so we finally got approval through DPS. It only makes sense. And now this guy calls me today. He finished his 32nd inspection, went to South Lake to help them. You got to have 32 inspections before you are blessed to do that. And so he gets that and he said, you know what, Chief? I just want to tell you, thank you for selecting me to do this. Thank you for listening to me. He's motivated, right? He's motivated, and that's just a small win. It didn't cost us any money. I mean, we bought a few little, tools, but that provided that sergeant with opportunity and he was heard. That was a win for us. I don't run this police department. At the end of the day, I sign the checks and obviously my name's on the check when it really counts. I have 11 people help me run this place.
So I will tell you that sounds incredible. Sounds like an incredible environment to work in. But from an outsider, I think could also seem quite intimidating to come into a work group that has already developed that relationship, that has that trust. How would you envision someone from the outside coming in this role and acclimating to the team and to the culture of Bridgeport Police Department?
Well, that's a great question. And I think, it's so important. My advice, I'll put it this way. My advice to someone coming in to this situation would be to be humble, to listen, take time to observe. I'm not speaking like this place is perfect. We have all kinds of issues. Okay. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's important in the approach, right? And I've hired some officers that have retired from Fort Worth and a couple other larger agencies in the DFW Metroplex. And we've had this exact conversation is don't come in here and try to boss these younger folks around and tell them this is the way we did it at Fort Worth or this is the way we did it here, because that's not here, number one. But in order to gain respect, I think this is for any leader, is to come to an organization or to a group of individuals and just listen, observe, take time. That may be 60, 90 days. I hope to have the meeting with that individual, say, okay, what have you heard? What have you listened to? What is the things you see that we need to change? And then start having those conversations. But to come in here like a thunderstorm and wreak havoc, day one start, like we talked off camera a little bit ago about the beards. No more beards, that would be just political suicide for that person. And so you have to be smart, have to be wise. I think it's key. And that's why I like this podcast. Understand what you're walking into, right?
Well, speaking of the environment, Bridgeport is a growing community, but can you speak to the support that you have from the community members and what that looks like and what you anticipate happening over the next several years as your community continues to grow?
Yeah. So, Bridgeport is about 45 miles northwest of DFW, approximately 6 million people within an hour drive. It's kind of funny when you go to budget, and you can appreciate this, Jeff. Go to budget and ask for pay raises, and we're comparing ourselves to Roanoke or Melissa or somebody like that in the DFW Metro. And they're like, you guys don't even compare to them. I said, no, we may not compare to them, but we compete with them. And so there's competitive agencies and there's comparative agencies. And so Bridgeport's it's on the bubble. And so we're starting to see that growth from that Tarrant County push north, west. Just a couple of years ago, Wise County was about 75,000 people. Now we're pushing over 100,000. And so we're starting to see a lot of growth, really, of the developments we know of today. If those come to fruition and build out, we will double our population. And so we're looking at doubling our population 5 to 7 years from now. That's what we know of today. And so we have the 380 corridor that runs through here. We've been very intentional about what we let into the city. City council and mayor and our zoning boards have done a really fantastic job about being intentional and what they allow to come into Bridgeport, as well as our zoning. It's very nicely laid out along 380. But the community support is what kept me here, to be honest with you. You see the things on TV, you hear the battles when you go to chief school of the political backlash in different communities or the non-support for law enforcement. Quite frankly, we haven't ever had that. And I think in 2009, we had a sergeant that was killed in the line of duty. It really helped solidify our relationship with the community. They came out in droves and supported us. They still do today. Sergeant Randy White's name is not forgotten. There's departments to talk about community policing. There's departments that embrace community policing. And really, that's what we do here. We have this program called Are You Okay? And it's exactly what it is. We have elderly or disabled folks that are on this list. And so every day officers are assigned in their beat to go by and check on those individuals and lay eyes on them. And when I go back to patrol and I hear stories like I took, Mrs. Smith a chocolate shake today because she hadn't had anything to eat and, whatever. Man, that's a huge win, right? And that shows you that the staff is embracing that type of mindset. We also have a Unidos program, which is for our Spanish-speaking citizens. We're about 48% Hispanic here in Bridgeport. For years, we had no community outreach specific for those citizens. And so Chief Dye at Grand Prairie then helped me get that rolling here in Bridgeport, Texas. And it's been a great program ever since. Then we have a Mad Impact program. I had this individual come to me and said, he was a faith-based organization that says, hey, Chief, I want to give you some cash to hand out to people. And I said, no, I'm not taking cash. I'll take gift card if you want to. And so he started this program with my guidance, and he brings me gift cards to a grocery store. So I hand those out to officers, and those are the folks that actually know who needs those gift cards, right? Whether it's a theft report or, welfare check or whatever, they can hand those gift cards out at their leisure. And man, I tell you, it's been a huge impact for us. People really appreciate that, right? And so we've been in the last 7 years, we've been named top 50 safest cities in Texas, which I think is a testament of not only of our staff, but the quality of people we have living in our community. In addition to that, we've had over $500,000 gifted to the police department in various donations since I've been chief. That alone speaks of the legitimacy of the police department in the community. People ask me all the time, well, Chief, what are you going to go somewhere else? You're going to go to a bigger department and do this and that? And I mean, I'd be lying to you if that wasn't a thought, right? But why? Why would I want to? I mean, yeah, other than just the ego, maybe. But I got a great team, and I have a great community to serve, and so we're just here trying to do the Lord's work, right?
So it's a brand new position.
Yes.
You've never had an assistant chief before. What's your vision for that role, and what responsibilities, especially the key responsibilities, should an applicant understand as they come in and compete to be your next and first assistant chief?
Yeah, so I have not had an assistant chief before I made chief. I was the assistant chief for about 7 years from my predecessor. I was real fortunate. I had a front row seat of great leadership every single day. And for 13 years, I worked hand in hand with him. And that's probably something I miss most is having that person to meet with every day, as you know how that goes. But that individual, quite frankly, that individual will be a key role in this police department, not only for today, but for the future, possibly. Do I know that person's going to take the next chief's job? I don't know. That's for somebody else to decide, but we're going to work hand in hand as a team. I expect that person to fill the gaps of where my busyness keeps me from certain tasks here in the police department. The city's growing. The city staff is growing. Therefore, we have some gaps, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm doing all city hall stuff. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing all police department stuff. And sometimes I feel like I can't get anything done efficiently or effectively. That person's going to have a key role in the operation of the police department. I don't have plans to hang up the police side of it anytime soon. This is all I've done all my life. So I don't know of anything else to do really, but that individual will be a key leader and a key voice, I think, that I can trust to help us guide for the future and help guide us as this development and this growth happens in North Texas here. I definitely want someone to provide an informed disagreement, someone that is going to provide me with a different view of some task or decisions that I may not understand. Someone that will help share the context of the police department and the operations and not just bark orders. They keep that mission and the vision, the focus, the foundation of what we do. I think also someone that will delegate, but not be lazy. They don't mind getting in the trenches and working. One of the things that I enjoy so much, guys, is putting the uniform on and getting the squad car on Christmas Day. I've done that every year. I make sure the officers, the little ones at the house, they can have Christmas Day with their family. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to get out and stop cars and do real police work again. So I try to do that some, but I need to do it more. I want that individual doing that as well. Just understand that we have a very diverse staff as far as experience to show grace. We have policy, we have precedents that we set when we enforce policy. Let's serve the public with as much enthusiasm and energy that we can and do it at a high competent level. John Maxwell has a real simple formula for credibility, and it's consistency plus character plus competency equals credibility. That individual that we hire has to have that formula down pat, and they're not too afraid to walk in your office and respectfully disagree. But at the same time, when we shut the door and we walk out together in unison, it's the same mission.
So as this new person comes in and you begin building their competency, what stays on your plate? What gets delegated to them, and what decisions ultimately do they own?
Yeah, great question. Of course, that's going to take time, right? We talked about here on the city. I said, even when we hire this person, you're talking 2 or 3 years of intentionally directing the person in conversations and familiarity with how we operate and policy and procedure and so forth. But I foresee this person at some point taking over the administrative side of the police department and the operational side. And so as we grow, we professionally design our police department to match that growth. Eventually, we'll be able to separate those duties, but for the near future, that individual will have to take on the administrative and operational side as well. So hopefully at some point, 5-10 years down the road, we have another assistant chief and we're able to split those two functions. As those decisions, as well as budget, prep, as well as, a hand in the internal affairs investigations. We don't have a lot of them, thankfully, but when we do, they're so important to do right. If they're not comfortable in a certain area, let's work together to get them comfortable. That may be more training and just play it out in that manner.
So you get this person hired, you're 6, 8, 10 months down the road. What do you walk in that day and say, you know what, I made the right decision. I hired the right person for this job. What's that going to look like?
Man, another great question. Well, it'll start out with a vacation day, I'm sure, because I'll actually get to take some vacation. I'm only kidding, kind of. But no, that individual will be confident in their decision, that feel like they have the support. They understand the policy. The accreditation program is huge. Being the chair of the accreditation program for the Texas Police Chiefs, obviously we have to walk that out and we have to make sure that we're abiding by that. So having a good feel of that program as well, but also fully immersing themselves in the department and the community. They're going to community events. They're going to ball games, chamber meetings, all the different community events. So fully embracing what we have here. As odd as this may sound, when I walk by and I see someone sitting in their office, that employee, who I'm talking about, and they are seeking feedback from that individual, that's the win, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So it's not the difficult decisions on the street that we make. Those are relatively easy. It's the personal side of this business I think is so difficult. And so learning the staff and learning the personalities of the staff, you have that individual, that employee that we all have sitting in that office seeking advice from that individual. That's the win.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. I'm going to uproot my family. I'm going to apply for this job. I'm going to move to Bridgeport. Describe to me what it's like to live in Bridgeport. What opportunities are there for me and my family? What's the school system like? What am I going to do when I'm not working? Tell me about someone who's moving to the area. What can they expect?
Like I said before, Bridgeport's about 45 minutes northwest. The Alliance area is about 25 minutes away. So it's a growing area. And so you're relatively close to the DFW Metroplex. We don't have a residential requirement. The requirement I would ask is a relative quick response, 30 minutes or so. So anywhere in that area, I'm fine with. Moving to this community, Wise County as a whole is pretty similar in nature. It's still a lot of blue collar individuals. We are starting to get, some retail out this way, some restaurants, some chain restaurants. Our school systems, it varies all throughout the county. Obviously, I'm a homegrown Bridgeport guy, so I believe the Bulls and the Sissies are awesome. The sports in our school districts are very competitive. We have a soccer team that is inches away from state championship every year. We've won state in basketball a few years ago, and we're competitive in the girls' side too, as basketball is really competitive. If you have any athletes, we really consider you a top of the list at this position. Anyway, I just had a meeting with the superintendent. She told me to plug that, but no. So the community as a whole is great. We have a lot of good churches here from different denominations, but very supportive. Like I said before, you go to the grocery store, you may want to send your wife in because they're going to talk your ear off if they know you and see you. But that's okay, right? And sometimes you just got to be grateful for the little things, and that's something I'm really grateful for. Go to a store and you may get sidetracked, but it's a good conversation. The housing development is starting to really kick off. Like I mentioned, we got about, give or take 2,500 new houses coming on board here pretty quick. 3 of them have already started. Plenty of houses to choose from lower income to more of the affluent housing options. But, the community itself is great. The city is fantastic. We have a city council that really supports us from the law enforcement side. We've been very intentional in our budget process for public safety. Our council has not given us anything but support. In fact, our city manager is often complaining that our council wants to give us everything, especially the police department. But I don't see it's a bad thing. That's where we differ in opinion. Yeah, so you have Lake Bridgeport here as far as things to do. Lake Bridgeport, it's kind of been a hidden gem for a long time, but a lot of people are finding out about it and are ending up having lake houses out this way. But there's plenty to do. We have OHV Park, off highway vehicle park. So about 900 acres, a lot of trails, biking trails, hiking trails. So it's more of your outside, outdoor enthusiast, I would say probably. There's no shopping malls around here. That you'd find that back toward Denton or Alliance area. It's a beautiful community. It's a growing community. What I like about it is you have some big open country, surrounding you, but you can drive 25 minutes down the road and be in Denton.
Yeah, I'm going to just go out on a limb here and assume that there's good hunting and fishing. Either that's a turkey in the background there, or there's a vulture waiting for you to to ultimately die there as the chief of police. So I'm not sure which.
It's probably both, but actually, I have two turkeys on my wall, so in a nice buck here. So yes, hunting and fishing is well embraced by not only me but the entire staff.
All right, good to know, and I'm sure our candidates will love to know that as well. So I get the job. I'm the new assistant chief of police in Bridgeport. I noticed in the compensation and benefits part of the brochure, I'm looking at a salary range of 92,500 to 105 annually. A really competitive salary for a city your size and your location. What would you attribute that to? Is that another piece of evidence of how the community supports your department?
Yeah, I think so. And if you remember what I said a little while ago, comparative and competitive, we're still behind, I think, on that pay a little bit. But I think it is important that we consider that the close proximity that we have to DFW. But just like anything else, we're going to pay, we're going to get what we pay for. And we want a quality person. As far as rookie cops and dispatchers, we've lived by this motto for quite some time now, and it's really paid off for us. We look at the individual more than we look at maybe their skill set. If we're going to consider somebody as a recruit officer, we're going to look at the person as what kind of quality of person they are. I don't really care they can shoot this or do this or they can fight this or whatever. I want to look at the quality of person. If we hire good people, we can teach them, we can train them to be police officers or dispatchers. And so the quality of person is most important. Our benefits package is pretty competitive. I think it's just as competitive as anybody around here. We have a 40 hours exempt. Technically, that person would walk in and have 3 weeks of vacation a year, as well as we have a $200 monthly allowance for benefits. So how that works is not $200 in your pocket, but it's $200 toward insurance. So whether it be health insurance for family or dental, that's not paid for for the employee. But if you say, hey, my wife works or my husband works, I don't need insurance for them, you can take that $200 and put it in a 457 compensation plan. It just doesn't go to your pocket. It has to go to either a compensation plan or a benefit plan. So there's $2,400 a year right there. And then our certificate pay is very, very competitive. So if you have a master's certificate, it's going to be a little over $3,000 a year that you're going to get extra. Advanced certificates, $2,880. That's not included in that compensation. Unfortunately, you don't get overtime in this position. It is salary. You could very well look at just for those couple benefits there. You're pushing a little over 110. So.
Outstanding. So for someone who may not be familiar with the Texas municipal retirement system, would you explain that real quick?
Yeah. So Bridgeport is part of TMRS and it's routinely top 5 in the nation as far as public retirements. Very good. They just improved 8%, 2-to-1 match. Not here at Bridgeport, but TMRS did. There's about 10 cities across the state, the last I read, that is taking advantage of that. That is a goal for us in this coming up in the year, but until then, it's 7%, 2-to-1 match. That employee will put in 7% of their check each month into retirement. The city will match that at 14%. If this individual happens to be coming from a TMRS or TDCRS, then they will also walk in vested, quote unquote. And so they don't have to wait that 5 years. We have a 5-year vesting period. So they would automatically get the city's money at that point. The only other thing we didn't discuss would be a 1-year probationary period before this position.
So someone who's interested in being the assistant chief in Bridgeport, but, maybe concerned about uprooting their family and moving or coming to an organization that is so tight knit and feeling like they're the outsider, what's your pitch to them on why they should apply for this job?
Well, that's a conversation to have for sure. And I totally respect that question. I think the things that we've talked about throughout this podcast, I think the community and the department sells itself. The only thing I can say that I haven't said already is that you're going to be paid competitively, which to me at this position is probably not the most important thing. I hope it's not for you, but you're going to be moving to a community that embraces outsiders. And a lot of small communities don't. Some of those small communities are around Bridgeport, to be honest with you. But this community embraces outsiders. It also has a lot to offer. I think the department, the city, and the community sells itself. There's a lot of stability here, which in some cases that can be bad, as you know, but this is definitely not a negative. This is a very positive community.
Well, I'll tell you, having known you now for, probably 5 or 6, 7 years, having watched you as the chief of police in Bridgeport, having shared conversations with you, I can speak from my perspective that it's an incredible opportunity for a leader wanting to come in and learn under a chief of police, prepare themselves maybe to take that next step to be a chief of police or to serve at the number 2 level, which most chiefs would always argue is the best place to be. But to come in and truly make a difference in an organization and have the opportunity to get to know their people, to see what impact looks like, and to have a working relationship with a community that supports you, from my perspective, encourage anyone listening or watching this to take full advantage of that, because they're absolutely going to enjoy their time serving as assistant chief at Bridgeport.
Well, I appreciate those words. And you are right about the number 2 spot. That office is really comfy. I'll just end with this. I love people. At the end of the day, we're going to do what's right. Unfortunately, you have to make decisions in this corner office that are difficult. That's the sleepless nights that I have, is, I know these employees. I know their spouses. I know their kids. I know how difficult it is to walk down this road in law enforcement. And so I don't take any decision lightly. This has been a difficult position for us to form up right. And I think with your leadership, clear professionals help, I think we have the foundation right for this position. Now we just got to find the right person.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, thank you. James, anything to add as we wrap the interview up?
Jeff, I appreciate that. And I would agree with you guys. I know that number 2 spot's very nice. And I think you said comfy. Chief Stanford, thank you for telling us more about your community and Bridgeport PD. To summarize, what I got was beards, tattoos, small town feel with growth coming in, supportive community, outdoor recreation, but you're close enough to the Metroplex to take advantage of all the things Dallas and Fort Worth have to offer, but you get to live without the traffic. Is that pretty close?
Right. That's exactly right. You nailed it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being on. Thank you to the city of Bridgeport for allowing clear career professionals the opportunity to assist you in finding excellent candidates for your city. To the listeners, thank you for what you do day in and day out in your communities. Please follow Clear Career Professionals on LinkedIn to stay up to date on this and other amazing opportunities. The Bridgeport Assistant Chief of Police brochure and more information can be found on Clear's website under the Careers Opportunities tab. Please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and we will catch you next time.